Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Into the Stands. I'm Robbie alongside Colin and Chris, and today we have a special guest. We have a returner this time, a little change of things. We have Christian. Well, first of all, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
How are you guys? Good to be here.
So before we start today, we just have a little ad read for you guys. We have WIUR's Festive Frequencies event is tomorrow night, 7 p.m. in McGrath. Hope to see you guys there. It's a very fun event, and that is our ad read. So to our regularly scheduled content Into the Stands, we're starting off with a little different because usually we would start with like a New York theme, but we're not. The Oakland Athletics is who we are starting with today. They have officially will relocate to Las Vegas. The vote today happened this morning at somehow 6 in the morning. It was like when the report came out. And it was, according to Bob Nightingale, who reported it first, it was unanimous. Chris, we'll start with you. What is your initial reaction to this news?
So we talked about this back in April, I think it was, when this move first, we first got the news that this move to Vegas was going to happen, that the Oakland Athletics would be moving, and it would be to Las Vegas, as they did not reach an agreement with the city of Oakland to build a new stadium in Oakland. Howard Terminal was where they wanted it to be, or what they wanted the stadium to be called. But what I will say about the last time since April is I have begun, I've done a lot of research about the situation, and I've learned a lot more about what happened. If you remember back in April, right, I seemed pretty happy that the A's were moving to Vegas. And I think overall, I think that was just because seeing a Major League Baseball team in a new place, seeing a team relocate was interesting to me. Moving to Vegas, I just thought it would be interesting, and I was happy by that idea. But when you look deeper into it and you just do a little bit of research, you realize that what was done to the fans of the Oakland Athletics was really messed up. I mean, they were. It seems like they've been antagonized through this whole situation. They've been viewed as the problem. Meanwhile, John Fisher is a guy who's consistently put up low payrolls, never wanted to put money into this team, had a good team just 3 years ago. This is a great brand, the Oakland Athletics. They've been a great team. They've won a lot of championships in their history, have had some of the greatest players in history go through that organization. Just recently, they had a really good team. I mean, they won the division in 2020, and they were a consistent wild card contender. So they had a good team with guys like Matt Chapman and Matt Olson, and instead of putting more money into those teams, John Fisher decided to sell the team and trade off those pieces. And what we've seen the past 2 years is an awful product in Oakland. And I don't think it should come as a surprise that fans have not shown up to games. It's been historically bad attendance numbers, record-breaking numbers. Record lows for attendance at the Oakland Coliseum. But when you look at what he's done and how the fans have been treated, and the fact that no improvements have been made to the Oakland Coliseum, it's not all John Fisher here. I mean, the city of Oakland also declining the bids or the requests for the proposals for building a stadium in Oakland. Also, Major League Baseball. It seems like there's a lot of propaganda here in John Fisher's favor. If you remember that reverse boycott back in July, where, I mean, out of nowhere, right, the Oakland A's fans, which proves their passion, that they are out there, they do care, and that they are not the problem. The reason the Oakland A's are moving is not because they don't show up. It's because of the way ownership has, decided. Ownership clearly wants to move to Las Vegas for the money. It's all about the money, and the fan has not been taken into account. But right, when in that reverse boycott, if you remember, fans were bringing in those posters and banners that they created saying, sell the team, Fisher, sell the team, all that. If you remember on MLB Network's broadcast of that game, they cut out those signs from the broadcast because they don't want that message of John Fisher being the problem with this A's, move to Vegas. They didn't want that to be what people's image of John Fisher was, because Major League Baseball supported the move to Vegas from day one. So there's listen, they are moving to Vegas. That is the reality. But there was a lot of shady business going on behind the scenes, and I really, the respect that I have lost a lot of respect for John Fisher. I mean, I didn't really know who he was.
begin with?
No, you're right. I didn't know who he was, but I've definitely since I really learned who he was back in April, I've really as the months have gone on, it seems like he's continued to just you know, get on everyone's bad side because what he's done is really I think just the way he's treated the fans is awful. I mean, just today the quote came out that he was he came across a couple of young A's fans who criticized him, and he told them that this whole situation's been harder for me than it has for you guys, which I think is a terrible thing to say to your fans. And then he comes out today, and his message seemed very insincere. I know talking baseball, the way they worded it made it seem like in 2 sentences he said, "Oh, I'm sorry for you A's fans, but we're really excited to move for Oakland." You look at the actual quote, it was, a little more of a steady move to the supporting the move to Vegas and thanking the fans in Oakland, but it wasn't as sincere. It was still not very sincere. He doesn't give a crap about A's fans in Oakland. So I really just want to send my sincere apologies to the fans in Oakland. They are great. They are awesome. They are just do not want to stand for this bad ownership. And they showed that with that reverse boycott, how passionate and real they are. And I'm really sorry that this had to happen, but I guess that's just the way the world is. It's all about money nowadays.
Colin, do you have any quick thoughts for us?
I mean, yeah, just I feel bad for the city of Oakland. Obviously, they lost the Warriors, they lost obviously the Oakland Raiders too. But I mean, money wise, it's obviously the better idea. I think in Las Vegas they will be a bigger attraction. We're starting to see, especially with the stadiums in Las Vegas now, especially with the Raiders seem to be filling that out more. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch them there. But obviously, you just heard for the fan base. The quote by John Fisher, obviously that's very insulting for the fan base, just saying that it's a great day for Las Vegas, but it sucks for the Oakland A's fans who, were the ones who actually cared about this organization, put, all their time and energy into it. But yeah, we knew they were a bad baseball team. It's probably going to take a while for them to get back to relevance in the MLB, but you just have to feel bad for A's fans on the state, and especially for Oakland. It seems to be a good sports city. I remember at least, just in basketball terms, watching the Warriors go on all those playoff runs. That Oracle Arena crowd in Oakland was always roaring. So Oakland sports fans are passionate. It just sucks that this is what it came to.
Christian, you got quick thoughts for us?
Yeah, so I completely agree with every single thing that Chris said. It's just like, it kind of reminds me of when the Raiders left, because I mean, you guys know how crazy Raiders fans are, like Raider Nation, like they're crazy, and like, yeah, like I feel like Allegiant Stadium where they play is more of a tourist attraction more than just a stadium. Like, say what you want about where the A's play at Rickey Henderson Field, like whatever. Like, yeah, the stadium is awful, but they could have just built a new stadium in Oakland and like keep their fan base and everything. It kind of reminds me of when the Rams moved from St. Louis to California. They lost all of their fans to the point where they were playing crowd noise in the back of their stadiums. I feel like you lose a lot of that big fan base when you move in. I feel awful for the fans. I mean, I know some A's fans, like they're not happy, but I'm happy for the players. It's a new opportunity. Like it's a new place that they'll be able to go. Like, it's Las Vegas. It's one of the biggest cities in the States, and it's a big landmark. So I think it'll be cool for them. But the way that the ownership handled it is just so poorly. I mean, like put yourself in A's fan shoes. Imagine if you were an A's fan living in Oakland and you found out your team's going to move, even though the months and months of protests, the poor attendance and everything, but you guys still went and you pushed through. It's like, it's awful to see, but I'm happy for the players. Maybe they'll start adding a higher payroll and things like that and start signing some bigger guys, but it's a new opportunity, but the way it was handled was just awful.
Yeah, I completely agree with all you guys. You guys all made great points, but I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction here. And my question was, when we go back to the Howard Terminal project, I'm glad you brought that up with the bid for that. The reason it didn't happen, and this is more on John Fisher, why did that bid not happen? It was not because of the money. Both teams were going to bring the money. It's just what the city of Oakland wanted, which was affordable housing by the ballpark. And it's not, from a viewer's perspective, it's not the best thing to have around a ballpark, possibly. So, I think Oakland really wanted to do that. That was one of the bigger parts of the project, which, I mean, Oakland really wanted to do it. And that was, for John Fisher, it's a deal breaker. So Now the what are we gonna call them now? The Las Vegas A's? What the heck are we gonna call these guys?
Yeah, I think that's
gonna be
about
terrible.
right.
I'm not gonna
but
get used to that. It's like how long it took some people to call them the LA Chargers. I cannot or not the LA Chargers. It was the
Rams.
The Rams.
St. Louis Rams.
My apologies. It was the Rams. So my big other question is with how, and we talked about this before the show today, was where the heck are the A's going to play when the stadium lease ends in 2024?
Well,
that's a good question.
The rumor was, or it's not a rumor. I think it's what they're considering is either San Francisco Oracle Park, home of the San Francisco Giants, which would terrible. I mean,
has
if
that ever happened before? Two teams playing in the same ballpark? At least,
yes.
What was the last time?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go Polo Grounds, the Mets, Yankees, sharing.
I mean,
yeah,
that's the only one I could think of.
I mean,
Ebbets Field.
I even the last time I think in recent memory was like for one day, a couple days. It was when the Hurricanes in Texas. So I remember the Yankees and Rays played a game at Citi Field, something like that, like or stuff like that. Like I think I remember the Houston Astros and Texas Rangers had to play at Tampa Bay's ballpark for a couple games because of the hurricane in Texas. But the problem with this, I mean, yeah, if A's fans aren't showing up in Oakland, they're not going to show up in San Francisco. If the team's still going to be terrible, that's the problem here. The other rumor was Vegas stadium, minor league ballpark for the Las Vegas 51s. I think that's what they're called. Which I personally think, yeah, maybe they're going to lean in that direction because they're moving to Vegas anyway. But I think that would almost be worse because you're moving to Vegas. As you said, right, it's going to be like a tourist attraction, this whole Vegas thing. That's really what it is. Because if they suck, I mean, fans are going to show up the first 2 months because, we got this new stadium in Oakland, which is also going to have a small capacity to begin with. They're going to, as the years move on in that new stadium in Vegas, they're going to add more seats and new renovations to that, I would think, right? Unless John Fisher wants to be cheap there. But what I'm saying is, right, they moved to Vegas in the minor league ballpark before they actually make their official move to Vegas. It's almost going to, kill some of that magic because they're going to Vegas for 3 years where they're not going to be very good. They're not going to be good in 3 years. And by the time they open that new stadium in Vegas, it's not going to be this special grand opening in Vegas because they had already been in Vegas for 3 years. And the fans, it's nothing special. So that's the thing to me is it'll be cool it's like, yeah, you mentioned the Blue Jays playing in Buffalo for a few and Dunedin for a few, but that's because of COVID. They needed to do that. So yeah, the people in Buffalo, that was cool. But, for Vegas, yeah, I mean, they'll go to games there. It might be like a grand opening, but for it just being a minor league ballpark, just holding a major league team, the new stadium's not going to have any of that magic, and it's just going to be more of the same stuff, I think.
Ticket prices too.
That's a good point as well.
Imagine how much those tickets are going to cost. They're just going to, like, literally, it's just a tourist attraction. Like, It's not about the baseball team.
Yeah.
You were completely right about the money. Like think about it. Like, what we pay for Yankee games, like, imagine that times 2. It's
to watch Oakland A baseball
for a team who's, like, I'm not trying to, like, talk down on the A's, but they're
good.
The A's.
Yeah, no, they're not good.
Like, they had an awful season, awful record, and you're gonna pay all that money to go to that stadium, which is gonna cost what, like, a couple, like, it's gonna be crazy.
Exactly. But one point I want to bring up before we go to our next topic is the growth of Las Vegas. And that's one thing I want, because I remember if you follow other sports outside of the U.S., F1 is going to Vegas this weekend, which it already looks like a mess, which I think is going to show some bad light on Vegas if that goes really bad, because you're doing an F1 race in a sport that needs to have hotter temperatures. It's going to be 50 degrees as the main temperature for the start of the race. Oh, and by the way, in Eastern time, the race is at 3 a.m. I don't think anyone's going to watch this thing, but, listen, they got the Vegas Golden Knights who just won a Stanley Cup. I mean, they have the Vegas Aces who just won the WNBA championship. So they have some intriguing teams there. Of course, you have the Las Vegas Raiders who won again. We'll talk about them later. But, I mean, I think we should talk about them later. But, Vegas is now a very big attraction for some of these teams. But we're going to go to our next topic, which is we're going to real quick break down some of the key MLB free agents and where we think we can land. And I think it's only right if we talk about Shohei Ohtani first because, well, first of all, for context, all the big free agents rejected the qualifying offer, which I didn't expect, but here we are. So we're going to start with Shohei Ohtani, who is undergoing that surgery. Did he already undergo that surgery? Does anyone know that?
Yeah, I think
right?
so.
I was just making sure. So he did undergo the surgery. He's probably not going to pitch this year, but
No, he's not.
He's not going to pitch this year. Thank you for verification on that. He's a very intriguing bat. There's a lot of teams he could fit on. We'll start with Chris again. One, how much do you think this dude's going to get paid? And where do you think he's going?
He's going to go to the Chicago Cubs, and he's going to get 8 years.
What's the AAV? I think the first year he's going to get like half of what he would get as a pitcher as a combined. So
10 years, 480 million.
10 years? You know he's 29, right?
Someone's going to have to overpay.
Fair enough.
Someone's going to have to overpay. Someone's going to, yeah, because you figure the only thing that I'm concerned about, which leads me to think maybe there's a world where he could get a 1-year contract. It's just that I feel like then every team becomes available. Is that if he can decide he doesn't want to pitch. If you give him a 10-year deal, right? You can give him 10 years, whatever, and you could be paying him over $40 million, and then he could just decide next year, I don't want to pitch. I just want to be a DH. So then I don't think that's $40 million worthy. So you got to make sure he could pitch, but a team will overpay. And with what the Cubs paid for Craig Counsell, yeah, I'm saying it because of what my prediction before the season with them going to the World Series. But their team, they want to bring back relevancy to Chicago, the North Side, and I think the Dodgers are there, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox. All these teams have interest in him, and they all have some type of connection to him, some way that he would want to go there. But Chicago Cubs, I think this is their big guy. I think this is who's going to get them on the radar. I don't know. Again, I could be absolutely wrong. He could go to the Mets. He can go to the Dodgers, any other big team, but I just have a feeling the Cubs are going to be one to watch. So I'm going to say he goes to the Cubs.
I like that pick. I'm going to go next real quick because my thoughts are very quick on this one. I agree with the Chicago Cubs. I mean, I thought they were intriguing to begin with, but I think them getting Craig Counsell could be more beneficial than – because remember, the first time Ohtani was in the mix, we had teams in the mix, the Cubs were right in there. We're right in that hunt towards the very end. So I think the Chicago Cubs – would be, I think, the number one spot for him. Of course, you can't ignore the Los Angeles Dodgers. Heck, maybe he goes back to the Angels. Ron Washington said his team is going to be aggressive. When has that worked for the Angels at all?
He can't do that.
Has that ever worked for the Angels? I mean, I remember those years when they signed C.J. Wilson to that terrible contract.
The Angels deserve to be irrelevant. I mean, come on. They can't keep getting rewarded.
Please trade Mike Trout. He doesn't deserve this. But I think he's going to go to the Cubs. I agree. I like the term you were thinking of. I'm going to say not 10 years. I'm going to say 8 years and go a little bit shorter, especially with the possible cause of injury. Who knows how long he could be out for pitching wise and if it affects him at all. So I'm going to say 8 years. I'm going to say, hold on, I got to fill out the calculator.
You said 8 years?
I'm going to say 8 years. And I'm going to say
it'd have to be like somewhere in the 400.
South of 400. I'm going to say just south. That first year is going to impact because of him not being.
The only thing that I would say to that is then someone's going to come out with that 9th year and the 10th year. That's the only reason I'm saying.
Bidding, but I think a lot of GMs are going to be passive because of the injury.
No,
especially with a guy with a pitcher like that. I think it's very possible. Colin, what do you got for us?
I like the idea of Shohei Ohtani going to the Cubs, but I don't think it's going to happen. Listen, I know obviously Chicago had a pretty good season this year. They almost could have got that wild card spot that the Diamondbacks ended up getting. But, I mean, for this entire process, we've heard about how it was the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think that's where he does go because, the Dodgers have that history of spending a lot of money on free agents. I think, just him, and that's just who the Dodgers are, right? They get those guys, get a lot of pay crazy salary money to those guys. And, I think that, and then with Shohei Ohtani, I'm going to say 10 years, $500 million. I think that's what we're looking at. I think the Los Angeles Dodgers have that money. I think they're going to show that out to him. And you know, obviously for an Angels fan, it sucks because you're going to see him just go basically cross town. But I mean, I think that Shohei Ohtani seems to like, you know, the warmer weather. That was a big reason why he didn't go to the Yankees, right? He wanted to play in a warmer weather area along the West Coast, you know, closer to Japan. I think that move's a no-brainer, and I just think that as long as the Dodgers give the money to them, I think the Dodgers can really outbid anyone in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees could give them money, but obviously the Yankees aren't going to do that because Brian Cashman are pretty good right now, and it looks like we're going to get Juan Soto, possibly. Maybe we make that move. Who knows? But I say Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers is a home run. Like I said, 10 years, $500 million.
Christian, what do you got? What are we thinking?
All right. So it's really going to depend on his contract. I think the really big market teams are going to want him 10 years.
Who's his agent? Does anyone know who his agent is?
I have no clue.
Let me find it. Keep going. I'll let you know his agent.
So I think that if he's going to go to one of the big market teams, it's going to be for 10 years. I think if he's going to go to a Giants, a Dodgers, a Red Sox,
Giants,
one of those really big market teams, I really don't think he's going to come out east over here. He said multiple times, well, allegedly, he said that he wants to stay out west. So I don't think he'll go to the Dodgers. I think I'm going to feel the San Francisco Giants here. But I think that they're going to sign him to 10 years. I think that they think that, listen, like this is it. Like, we've been looking for our guy. Like, they thought Aaron Judge was our guy. Did that happen? No.
They signed Arson Judge.
Arson Judge.
Exactly. Arson Judge.
So I believe that what they need to make a big splash. And I think their splash is getting Shohei. The only issue is he can't pitch for a year. So obviously his value is going to go down, but he's still going to want that money because he's going to be back the year after. So it's really, they're in a predicament here. I think $500 million is insane. No, let's be real here. No athlete is worth $500 million.
Kylian Mbappe apparently is. So I mean, you can maybe
even then, I would say
no, that's crazy.
I could in that case, a quarterback, fine, I get it, but a baseball, exactly, but a baseball player, you get 3 at bats in a game. I get he pitches, but it is wild, but it's gonna happen.
And the way like injuries are in today's sports, like obviously, like he just blew out his arm. Okay, is he gonna hit the same? Obviously, like maybe like both like don't coincide as much, but like I've dealt with an arm injury before, and like I like couldn't hit the same for a couple of months.
Yeah.
So let's say a big team signs him in the offseason, they pick him up, and his numbers are plummeting down. You spent all that money for no reason.
Right.
I think it's too risky to sign him now. I think it's a really big risk and reward factor. You'd have to play out. Obviously, Shohei is Shohei. I mean, the guy's a unicorn.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but I think if somebody were to sign him, I don't think he goes back to the Angels unless they throw him like
they have done it before. They have done it before with Pujols. And Rendon
and Trout's making
Trout's
making a bag over there too.
But then, like, I'll draw the Dodgers could just say, "Hey, you can come here. We got a much better culture. We've been waiting to dish out another contract for a star."
They actually have a culture. You can even make an argument they actually have a culture.
Well, yeah, that's what yeah.
I think they have more of a culture than the Giants do at this point too.
Yeah.
So it could really go any way, but I don't think he comes over here. Personally, as a Yankee fan, I don't know if you guys agree. I don't really want him because I don't want that much money spent on a singular player when we need multiple pieces to sign. So I don't even think, like, what are the Red Sox going to do if they get him? They still need pieces too. So in my eyes, there's no point in him coming over here. Stay out west where all the real competition is while the rebuilding phases are going on out east.
I like that idea. We're actually only going to talk about 2 more free agents because we are running this time's flying already. We're already 20 minutes in. Our next free agent is another Japan star. By the way, first of all, Shohei Ohtani's agent is Nez Bolello. Is anyone a picture of him? No, I just got the name. This is how you know our agent's that irrelevant. Is when no one's ever heard of this man. I've never heard of him, but anyway. But we're going to talk about our next free agent, and he's also a Japanese star. His name, probably not going to butcher this. It's Yoshi Yamamoto. I'm just going to call him that. I like him a lot. He's 25 years old, coming over from Japan. Here's my question: do you have to sign him with like the international money, or you can just pay him with whatever?
I think international money.
I don't even know what's the international money for this man. I
But
wish the Mets got him, but
no, like the big market teams are going to be
the
the
big
ones.
market teams have all the money. But let's ask you guys. We'll start with Colin this time, changing up the order a little bit. Where do you think he lands, and how much money are we talking?
Well, obviously, the team that he's got a link to a lot is the Yankees, so we have to talk about it from that angle. Now, listen, for me with Yamamoto, I think that he can be a great player in the MLB. You know, obviously the Yankees have that pipeline where they had Tanaka for those years, and he did a lot for that rotation. But, you know, the concern for me is going to be the money because, listen, you know, last offseason we signed Carlos Rodon to that, like, huge contract. And, you know, obviously last year did not go as planned. So, I mean, in the case that Yamamoto didn't work out, you're looking at 2 huge contracts in your starting rotation that's not going to pan out in the long term. Now, I mean, personally, if I'm the Yankees, I'd rather go for Juan Soto. I think that makes more sense for the team, at least going forward. But I mean, in terms of the other contenders, I'm sure a lot of those big market teams, like we said, could throw money out of this guy. You know, we know Japanese players have usually translated pretty well in recent years to the MLB, and there's a lot more guys coming in soon from that Japan, you know, World Baseball Classic team. A lot of players coming over from there, but you know, for the Yankees, I think that if you get them at the right price, it works. If not, I can see once again, like we mentioned, maybe even the Giants, you know, one of those other big market teams that are looking to spend could definitely go for him. Maybe if the Cubs miss out on Ohtani, that could be the spot where he goes. But yeah, I mean, I think that was another case where it really depends on who gives him the most money.
I think he's going to go to the New York Mets. I think they listen. What Yoshinobu Yamamoto is. He's 24 years old. He's going to get the bag, right? He's going to get Tanaka type money, more money than that. I mean, if Garrett Cole is making $35 million a year, I think, right, coming over from Japan with his numbers that he posted in Japan, it's clear. It's not even a debate that Japanese pitchers translate very well to the major leagues. He's going to be a star here as long as he stays healthy. Only knack on him, I actually heard John Boy talk about this a little bit. He is a shorter pitcher, which maybe in
that. Senga's that job. You don't need that.
So maybe in the long run, you know, but I mean, Sonny Gray, Marcus Stroman, shorter pitchers that have had very good careers so far.
Mets were like I thought they would be great with Sonny Gray,
but with the Mets, I think this is the perfect start to this new sort of direction they're trying to go, which is get younger, but also utilize that money that Steve Cohen's going to bring to the table. I think they're going to go out. They're going to be very aggressive for Shohei. I think they'll be aggressive for Shohei as well. I think they're going to be extremely aggressive on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, right? Joining someone he knew from. I believe they played in the World Baseball Classic together, Kodai Senga, right? And joining him in a rotation, right? I just think it's a perfect move for the New York Mets. They need pitching. I would go to a Mets games if he. I would want to go see this guy pitch in person if he went to Queens. I think that would be huge for the Mets. I think he's going to go there.
Christian, what are we thinking?
So, I actually have a list in my phone of do or die guys that the Yankees really need to sign. He is one of them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's realistic here. I do think he's going to go to the Mets as well.
I'm different than everyone.
So, like Chris said, he's perfect for the Mets. This new change that they're trying to go through. As much as I want him on the Yankees, I don't know about the money situation. Like I said, I have like a list of certain Yankees that would be good for the team, but wouldn't want that much money. Like the Yankees already pay Cole's getting a bag, yeah. Judge is getting a bag, Glaber is probably gonna get that money too. Yankees are apparently in for Matt Chapman now, and Matt Chapman's gonna want money. You know, like
Rodon.
And then Rodon. And then if Juan Soto decides to grace his presence in New York, then that's going to be money. So I feel like the Yankees can afford to kind of sit out on this one. The rotation is okay. I think they could pick up another guy like a Blake Snell who won't want as much money. I mean, maybe a little bit less.
He's going to want a bag. He plays for the Padres. He's going to want money.
But I think he might settle for a new location too. I think he might settle a little bit. It depends. But there's other guys on this free agent market that could also make a splash for this Yankees team. So I don't think so, but I think the Mets will get him.
So like Yoshi's breaking ball, I'm going to throw a curveball to you guys. I'm going to say the Boston Red Sox. They're going to make a splash. Listen, the Red Sox need a lot. They have a very young starting rotation. I mean, emerging pieces like Brayson Bella. I think that's his name.
Brian Bell.
Brian Bell. So I think if they really want to make a sport, they're heavily interested. So for Yoshi, why not go play with a former teammate? I mean, why not go play with Masataka Yoshida out with the Boston Red Sox? I think it's a very intriguing option.
Yeah.
The Mets, I don't know if he would go, why he would go to the Mets now. Like if the Mets are more competitive, then yeah. The Mets just traded like a lot of good players. Are now in a dilemma with Pete Alonso possibly. So I don't know why he would. I like the idea of the Mets, but I don't know. I mean, I think the Boston Red Sox are building, and I think a long contract to a guy like Yoshi Yamamoto would be perfect for them to really kickstart a plan for them to possibly make it. I mean, maybe they have like an Orioles like run and maybe make the playoffs, but they need a guy to help start a possibly big free agency run. I think Yoshi Yamamoto would be perfect. One more free agent to talk about, and it is an outfielder. And we are going to talk about Cody Bellinger. Yes, guys, we are talking Cody Bellinger is our last free agent. We'll start with Christian this time. What do you think is the ideal fit, and how much do you think he's going to get paid? Cody Bellinger. What are we thinking?
You know what? This is a little bit of a unpopular opinion. I think he's going to stay.
He's going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I think Chicago knows. I mean, we remember how he was with the Dodgers. How he had those insane years where he was batting. Oh my God, his average was insane. And then obviously he fell off. But I feel like he found his new stride with the Cubs. He's been hitting way better than he was with the Dodgers his last few years. Why not keep it up and why not stay with the Cubs? So I think that I would like him. Of course, I would love him to be a Yankee. I mean, we need an outfielder pretty badly. But I think he should stay in Chicago. I think that's where he belongs. He's starting to hit his stride there. He's with Dansby Swanson. Like, he's got some guys there. There are some pieces in Chicago. So I think he'll stay.
Chris, what are we thinking?
I actually think I have a bigger curveball. All right. I have not heard this team at all in the mix for Cody Bellinger. So the team's John Heyman was saying that he'd be surprised if Cody Bellinger's not a Cub, Yankee, or Giant. I think Cody Bellinger's going to go to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Ooh, I like
They're going to lose Kevin Kiermaier. They had a disappointing season last year where they made the playoffs, but just didn't do much in the playoffs. And they have good players, but they need another lefty power bat, a guy who can man the center field position for a couple of years. They are dishing out some big contracts to guys like Kevin Gausman and George Springer, but they are losing Kevin Kiermaier, as I said. That's their defensive specialist in center field. They do have Dalton Varsho still, but if they're going to make a run in free agency, which I heard a report that they might, I think the Blue Jays are going to make a competitive offer. I just think for the Yankees, it's a very Yankee-like move because Bellinger, to me, yeah, he's a phenomenal talent, but he feels very inconsistent year in and year out. And that's just not what this team needs. If they are going to sign him, the Yankees, they got to make sure that he's going to be the guy he was last year for the next 6 years or how long he signs. I think the Giants will be aggressive, but I don't think he's their guy. I don't think he's the guy they're going to get. And I don't know if the Cubs are going to go after him. I think the Blue Jays are going to be my wild card to get him.
I like that, Colin. What are we thinking?
You know, originally I was going to go with Christian and say he stays, but thinking more about it, I'm going to go with the Giants here because I feel like the Giants want to get that outfield piece. I think that obviously missing out on there and Judge. I think that we know they're aggressive to get an outfield, aggressive to get more position players in their lineup. And listen, I think Cody Bellinger is a great fit there. You know, we talked about the down years in 2021 and 2022, but being able to kind of resurrect himself back in Chicago, you know, obviously we want to see if he can do that more. I think going back to California as well, where he found a lot of that success originally, I think he's going to continue to be a great player there. But before we wrap up for the MLB, I just wanted to throw one more name out there for free agency that I wanted to talk about real quick, and that's Rhys Hoskins. I think that's an underrated move that I think the team is going to make because, you know, he missed 2023 with the injury, but he's been a consistent guy who's got 25, 26, 27 home runs every single year. I think that he's not going to sign to a huge contract, but we'll look out for Rhys Hoskins. I think whatever team gets him is going to get a great pickup there.
I like that. Real quick, my prediction for Cody Bellinger, I am going to throw another curveball into this. I'm going to say the Texas Rangers are going to land Cody Bellinger. You know, how hard is it to get back to the point where you were the previous season? They're going to get Jacob deGrom back. Why not go solidify another outfield spot? They got some intriguing talents. They have a Dolis Garcia. Why not go out and get a left-handed bat? Something that I think they could really use. I think with the talent that Cody Bellinger can have, and that's the only question I have about Cody Bellinger is, can he keep that consistent level for the length of a certain contract? You guys talked about it earlier. So that's my only question about Cody Bellinger. But we're going to talk about the NFL next, and I don't know about you guys, but both New York teams I don't think should be talked about this week because of how bad they were. What do we think about that?
We gotta talk about it.
I want to throw it over to Christian to see quickly what he thinks about the Giants. I think it's only right. So Christian, take it away.
Oh God. Okay. To be honest, there's just so many holes in this team that just need to be fixed. I mean, Andrew Thomas is injury prone now. Apparently, he's getting hurt. He's just cramping up and just doing simple things. He's getting hurt constantly. The real thing is going to be, what do we do with Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones is a year and a little bit longer out from coming back. I think they said it'd be 5 or 6 of next year. So we're going to have a high draft pick. What do we do with the draft pick? Do we get a quarterback? Do we get Marv? Or do we draft another offensive lineman that I've seen since I've been in the 6th grade? Because I feel like we just draft a lineman and it's like they're mid.
It doesn't work.
Evan Neal, mid. Andrew Thomas, good last year. Now injury prone. Eric Flowers, awful. The list just keeps on going on and on and on. And there's some bright spots. Like we have John Michael Schmitz at center, who he's been hurt a little bit, but when he came back, he's been pretty decent. It's tough facing some of the best defensive tackles in the league. Another bright spot, Dexter Lawrence. Kayvon Thibodeau's having his best year, 100%. I mean, Kayvon's having a phenomenal year. Jason Pinnock's having a good year. I want to talk a little bit about Deonte Banks. Everyone overlooks him a little bit. I think Banks is having a really good season. It's just the one-on-one man coverage is hard, but that's Wings defense. So I think we'll be all right in the future. I'm not really worried about our defense, It's just our offense has to keep them off the field, and they just can't. I think our defense played – I don't know how many snaps they played against Dallas on Sunday, but they were on that field all game. So, obviously, it's going to be an interesting offseason. I think Daniel Jones will get one more shot at it, but if not, I don't want the Giants to eat that $40 million contract. And then we got to figure out Saquon. Who knows what's going to happen with that? So it's going to be very interesting. I think Jalen Hyatt's got to play more than what he's playing right now.
Isn't he injured?
He's out this week with a concussion.
That's what I was thinking about.
Which I don't even know how. I think just whatever. But Giants got to rebuild. I love Dable, but he's going to be on the hot seat after this year, which is not what we saw coming at all for Giants fans. I expected a 500 record, but obviously, what are we, 2-8 at this point? Yeah. So we should just keep tanking.
I'm going to give a quick note on the Jets real quick, if you guys don't mind. I'm going to talk about this for only a minute to not make this go long. And my big thing about the New York Jets is I think a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs in the Jets organization. I think the only person who is currently safe is Joe Douglas. I think everyone else is at risk. And am I losing faith in Saleh a little bit? But I'm just really frustrated with. Zach Wilson, I don't know anymore. Listen, he showed some flashes in the game against Vegas.
Did he?
Yes.
He did.
Some, not many, some. Especially in the first quarter, he led a touchdown drive, but it got called back due to a holding penalty. And what happened the next play? A false start penalty. The Jets have. This is a great stat. The Jets in their last 2 games have had more penalties than the entire season, I think, or pretty close. So the big issue for me has been the lack of discipline the last couple of weeks. The New York Jets. They got 9 penalties or something that again in the game against the Las Vegas Raiders, a game that I'll say I've said this a lot. No one deserved to win that. That game was horrible, and the way that the Raiders. Josh Jacobs, great game. I like Josh Jacobs. Is the only Raiders player I actually like on their entire team, but they're doing something that's unprecedented already, which is win games with an interim head coach. They're 2-0 with an interim head coach, and they're back at 500, back in the playoff race.
Insane.
Which is unreal. I mean, I literally think they actually have a shot to make the playoffs now, especially with the way the Browns lost Deshaun Watson. I think the Raiders are right back in the swing of things. But that's all on the New York Jets. We're going to go to, I think, my favorite part of the day, which we haven't really talked about the full-scale NFL for the past couple of weeks. So let me ask you guys, what's been your favorite storyline from the past couple of weeks, or a storyline that can happen for the rest of the season? It's an interesting question. And while you guys search up your topics, I'm going to name mine, and that mine is the Minnesota Vikings and the way Josh Dobbs has played for the Minnesota Vikings. So for reference, the Vikings have gone on this winning streak, I believe, entirely without Justin Jefferson. So to put it into context, one, the Vikings lost Kirk Cousins and won. The Vikings started Jaron Hall, then he got injured. And then Josh Dobbs came out on short rest, barely knowing the team, and won. What did he do? He won again. I was thinking about comparing the Baker Mayfield game from last year when he got sent to the Rams, and then he on a very short week again, went out and won that Thursday. But, the situation with the Vikings, they're a weird bunch. If we take a look what the Vikings have done, one, they're really keeping pace in the NFC North, a division that only a couple weeks ago we thought could be a wash. But the Vikings said not so fast. And listen, they're coming off. Look who their wins have been against. Have they been against good teams? They beat the Niners. They were in the game, I think, against Kansas City. And they rattled off some wins in the division. You beat the Falcons by 3. You beat the Saints last week. They're coming up a game again on Sunday Night Football. I didn't even know it was on Sunday Night Football against the Broncos. So a game that I think Minnesota will win again. The rest of the schedule is a very interesting path for the Minnesota Vikings. But I still, even with Josh Dobbs, Josh Dobbs is going to make himself a bag next year. And well-deservingly. Where will he land? No idea. But Josh Dobbs is, along with Jaron Hall, I guess, because he played 2 halves total, have partially saved the Vikings season without Justin Jefferson. So even when Jay Jettas comes back, I think the Vikings will probably be a playoff team. I bet that was the expectation at the beginning of the year, but now losing Kirk Cousins, using your third quarterback in 3 or 4 weeks, and still being a playoff contender, it's nuts. So my pick for this is the Minnesota Vikings. Chris, what are we thinking?
There's a lot, but one that I think is maybe going under the radar. I think just the Saints, their ability to stay, afloat, right? It's been an interesting season for them. They're 5-5. Their quarterback situation. I mean, we saw Jameis Winston, I believe, played this past game against the Vikings, right? So we'll see what happens there. But they have an interesting little schedule. I know they have a game against the Panthers coming up soon. The Giants, they play the Giants. I mean, that's gonna be a walk in the park for the Saints. The Buccaneers. I think they didn't look good against the Buccaneers the last time they played them, which was at home. And then the Falcons, the Falcons, right? They play I believe at the end of the season at home. I don't know if they played the Falcons already for a game.
Who?
The Saints.
I think so. They maybe played 1.
Okay, so this is obviously one more left against the Falcons, but obviously they control their own destiny. The Saints is what I'm saying, right? They control their own destiny. They put themselves in a position where they control their own destiny, with also some games against some lower opponents thrown in there. I think they have a good chance to get into the playoffs and win that division, which I think it's the worst division in football easily. But I'd watch out for them. But I mean, another one, obviously, and it's not so much a good story as much as it's just kind of what's been talked about. As we mentioned, the whole thing with the Patriots and Belichick. I feel like I've just been really focusing on the Patriots a lot, with what's going on, because it feels like it's been dumpster fire in New England for them.
That. By the way, my mistake. The Saints have not played the Falcons yet. I thought they played already. If I can pull up the schedule, if I can unlock my phone. The Saints and the Falcons actually play when we don't have a show. So we can't even break down that game at all. Colin, I saw your phone. I love your pick already, and you haven't said a word. What team we talking about?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy, like you were mentioning. We really haven't been able to talk a lot about what's been going on around the NFL so far, but I think we have to talk about what's going on in Houston with the Texans. I mean, it's been phenomenal what we've been seeing. CJ Stroud has been generational, and not a lot of people thought that when he came into the draft, right? We know that Ohio State quarterbacks usually do not have a good track record in the NFL. But I mean, obviously, you're not going to say that because we know better. But if you're looking at just pure statistics, you can make the argument that CJ Stroud has been the best quarterback in the NFL this season. 15 touchdowns to 2 picks, 2,600 passing yards up until this point. And this is for a team, keep in mind, that was in the very early stages of a rebuild. You know, they hired D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco. It seems like we already kind of see him kind of set a culture there in Houston. And CJ Stroud, there's some good players over there on that offense, but it's not like he has a superstar yet. You know, he's mostly thrown to Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown, Nico Collins. So, there's a couple nice pieces there. Obviously, they drafted also Will Anderson in the draft just last season. But, listen, the Houston Texans are here already. CJ Stroud is already the runaway offensive rookie of the year. People have even talked about him possibly an MVP consideration, which I think is a little crazy for a rookie quarterback. But, hey, the sky's the limit. And, they're keeping pace with the Jaguars here in the AFC South. And, the Jaguars did have a pretty big winning streak, but, I'm very excited to see those two teams face off again because the first time it happened, the Texans won by 20. They went into Jacksonville, won 37-17. So they have another game coming up actually just 2 weeks from now in Houston. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. But there's some impressive wins on the schedule. I mean, they beat the Steelers by 24 points. They just beat the Bengals in a pretty good game last week. So I think that, we really didn't get a chance to talk about it a lot, but the Houston Texans, it's looking like they're going to be a team that's going to be a factor for a while because we've seen in a lot of instances, as long as you have that quarterback and he's at the top of the league, no matter what, you're going to be viable. And, just once again, just how crazy it is for the Texans because just a couple, just even a year or two ago when the whole Deshaun Watson situation was going on, a lot of, NFL guys did not want to even go near this team at all. They basically hired Lovie Smith because they really didn't have a lot of other options. They almost hired Josh McCown as their head coach. And here they are now. They're now very viable, ready to see what they're going to do in the future. But, really didn't get a chance to talk about it a lot, but I love what I'm seeing in Houston, especially out of CJ Stroud.
Christian, what are we thinking?
All right, so I have one team who's trending up and one team that's trending straight down. So I have my team trending up is they're not very good, but they're on a streak and they're getting better every single week. The Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have been playing outstanding football. I don't know if you guys watched the game against the Bills, but their defense played phenomenal. Pat Surtain is an animal, and even on offense, Javonte Williams is awesome. I mean, they're starting to learn to just hand the ball off to him. He's getting 30 carries a game, and he's pushing 100 yards every single game. Cortland Sutton is an animal too. I mean, he's so good on the receiving end, and Russell Wilson he looks like prime Russell Wilson. He's scrambling for first downs. He's starting to really look like himself, and I'm really happy for them. I just looked at their schedule. Their schedule isn't extremely difficult. They're 3-5 right now, but they have to go through Houston and the Chargers twice, but the rest of their games are winnable. They have the Raiders, and so can the Denver Broncos potentially push for a playoff spot? Who knows? But the last 3 weeks, they have looked extremely good. Buffalo Bills, Robbie loves it because he's a Jets fan, but the
I
Bills
was just laughing at it for how bad
the
it
Bills, I mean, I don't know what's happened to Josh Allen. I mean, they fired their offensive coordinator, but it's just like it's his fault, but Allen is doing such a poor job of throwing the football right now. And it's just he just doesn't look like himself. He's throwing more interceptions. He's careless with the football. He's careless with handoffs too. He's the reason James Cook fumbled in the game. So I believe that Buffalo, if they lose the next game, it's not looking too good. Their head coach might be
McDermott. I wouldn't fire McDermott yet.
Not yet, but there's definitely going to be questions.
I like that. Well, real quick, we're going to pick the Thursday night game as per tradition here. We have the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens. Real quick, I'm going to make my pick right now. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens at home. Listen, the Baltimore Ravens at home have been great all season long. Listen, they're coming off Did they win last week? This is when you know
They
you
lost to Cleveland.
Oh, they lost to the Browns. That's right. By the way, Cleveland Browns, no idea how good they are anymore because what's going to be their offense at this point. But the Ravens, I think, coming off an unfortunate loss at home against the Cleveland Browns, I'm going to pick the Ravens in a bounce back. Give me the Ravens by 14 points tonight against the Bengals. Chris, what are we thinking for this one?
I'm also going to go with the Baltimore Ravens, right? Despite losing at home, or just losing the last game against the Browns. The Bengals, right? It's been a tight division. I mean, very, very good division overall. But I am going to go with the Ravens. They're at home, right? I picked the Bears. The Bears were at home last week, and they won. So I'll go with the Ravens here. I'm going to say it's by 10 points.
I like that. I like that, Colin.
Listen, Ravens are another team I like so far what they've done throughout the season, really defying expectations. But I'm going to go for Cincinnati here, and the reason why is because I just simply really can't see the Bengals dropping the 5-5 being last place in this division. I saw a stat recently: the Bengals have lost about like 10 or 15 straight road games in primetime. I think that ends here tonight. I think the Bengals squeak out a close win by 3 points.
Christian, real quick, what's your last?
Well, I just checked the inactives for the Bengals, and their 2 starting DNs are out, and T. Higgins isn't playing.
Oh, interesting.
So you got to worry about obviously you have Jamar Chase, but I think that Lamar Jackson with his legs, Cincinnati's defense is okay. They're not elite. I like the Ravens defense against Joe Burrow. I'm gonna go with Baltimore by a touchdown.
Baltimore by a touchdown. Well, that will be the end of this week's episode of Into the Stands. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, make sure to check out Festive Frequencies Friday at 7 p.m. in McGrath. Well, on that note, I'm Robbie Basil with Colin, Chris, and of course our guest Christian. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this week. Saying so long. Enjoy Thanksgiving. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye, everyone.